All right. So kind of jumping into, career progression, and, just even after, talking about those soft skills that are needed. Career progression is essentially the process of making progress into better jobs. So ideally, you would have thought about, or you have thought about at this point, your career path, where you want to go, what skills, or what you want to do in terms of the future as far as your career is concerned. But I think it's super important to sort of define those career goals, understand what your current abilities are, and then, sort of think, okay, what skills do I need, and what skills do I need to develop to move to the next step, or to move to the next stage, or into the next role. Think about what positions appeal to you. I know sometimes it's like, you apply for a job and you might not get what you want, so you end up just going with what's available. We got to eat. But I think it's important to kind of chart that path ahead of time. That way you can be intentional about what it is that you want to do. You can be intentional about the plan. And I think just a few points here that I've captured, is that this mobility, this progression isn't always upwards. So you might make a lateral move before you move up, and this is not a problem. You can be an individual contributor in an organization, and you're still making your impact. So I think it's just it's important for us to kind of understand what that process might look like. And I think when I think about an organization like 54 Gene, that lateral movement is awesome. Yeah. Just because you learn more about the company. You might even be in different departments, so you're learning more about the value chain that Estelle spoke about, and how sort of, this role that you're in feeds into the next role, or the next department, or supports a function within the organization. Mentorship is a big one as well. It's kind of the ability for you to share with others, but then also to meet somebody who has charted the path before you. They're going to give you insight that you don't have to make a mistake or, fall down before you gain that insight. So I think, making sure that within the organization or even outside of it, you have someone that has kind of gone where you've gone and has, or where you're trying to go and has that experience. Training to sharpen your skills is another one. So think about your career path. Where are you trying to go? And what sort of skills do you need to get there? It might be, now there's so many options. There's LinkedIn Learning, there's Coursera, there's Udemy, and a plethora of others. But it's like, get in there and get some training. It's not always time spent that equates to career progression. It's, what skills have you acquired on the job, and what skills do you have to move you into the next role. And finally, visibility within the organization is huge. So look for opportunities to network within the organization. So it's not just kind of like, always the external networking that's important, but sort of think about what's going on in the organization. How can you be a part of it? And if it's a large organization, and like right now, a lot of us are working remotely, so we don't always have the opportunity to kind of like meet people in person every day and say hi in the halls. But you can also look for things that are going on within the organization that you can be a part of, just so you're a bit intentional about your journey and your career progression. Go ahead, Estelle.
Yeah, and it's so interesting what you're saying, Abi, now, and the point that really I can talk about a few examples that linking the lateral movement to visibility. Like, we have a few colleagues at 54 Gene who have done multiple positions in a very short period of time and in different departments, right? They were in sales, they were in business development, they were in core operations at some point, and then you see that within 2 or 3 years, they have grown so much that they can now occupy very senior positions within the organization. And I think lateral movement is something that we really undervalue a lot. But as a recruiter, I personally, enjoy it when I see a CV, when people have occupied different positions in different department in the organization that sometimes does not even relate to the core training that they had or the core qualification that they had. And that really just demonstrates, that system thinking that we're talking about earlier, of being able to approach, your career from a real 360 point of view. And I think that's to me is a very, very valuable feature to have as a candidate.
And maybe just to augment what you both have said, for people who are still trying to find their feet in terms of what career path do I really want to follow, never estimate the power of volunteering. When I see a CV, for instance, of someone who has volunteered in multiple organizations, as well as multiple departments within an organization, I'm more partial towards that person, because I know that they can bring a plethora of skills, but also of thinking, ways of thinking and methods of doing things, right? So in some cases, these volunteering opportunities will be unpaid. So think about it as investing in yourself so that you can find that right path for your career. It doesn't matter that you don't get paid for a month or a couple of months whilst volunteering in top companies, but you're more likely to get in if you're not looking for financial gain for a short period of time, just to give you that opportunity to learn under a mentor in that institution, in that organization. And that makes you more well-rounded, such that you're more employable when you start to look for that paying job in the future, because you have this wealth of experience and expertise gained from volunteering.
Yeah. And Abi, I wanted to maybe ask a little bit about, something that Dr. Jumi said, looking for opportunity of mentorship. And it's also a point that you touched on earlier. Mentorship has been a question that, everybody is wondering. Like, there's even been a debate recently about, is it even still a thing, mentorship? Or, like what do you think? What's your personal experience with mentorship, and how would you advise someone who is just starting or trying to find themselves, like Dr. Jumi said, how would you advise them to go about mentorship or finding a mentor?
So I'd say that, I've definitely heard the debate around whether we need a mentor or not. And some people will say, I had one and it didn't help, right? But I kind of think to myself, like, when you're looking for a mentor, what are you hoping to gain? Now, if you look for a mentor, and you don't have a job and it's clear that you just want your mentor to hook you up with a role, then it's sort of this, I feel like it changes the dynamic of the mentorship relationship. So it's almost like, okay, you have, this person that you're like, please give me a job. Hey, how did you get a job? Please give me a job. Yeah. So I think that when we're approaching or thinking about mentorship, also think of yourself as having something to share with the mentor. You know what I mean? There's I think, like, obviously the mentor has been where you want to go. So it's not, I don't like to think of it like a short-term situation. Find somebody who you admire, right? And then just build a relationship. Sometimes when we tag it as mentorship, then it's kind of like, but yes, there are those relationships where, or situations where someone has said, I want to be a mentor to someone. And that's great. It's clear cut, but I think it's just good to find someone that you admire. And then just, it's really to just like, gain from their plethora of, or their depth of knowledge or wisdom about like how to make a decision, or how to prepare for a particular interview, or ask questions here and there. But I think it's sometimes maybe a lot of pressure for mentors as well, when you're like, oh my goodness, you've done all this stuff. How do I get the knowledge and how do I get it fast? Meanwhile, it took them 30 years to get to where they are. So I love the idea of having people that you can call on because you trust, because of their expertise, and that you trust their opinion. I love it. But I think it's, how do we also approach the mentors, and what are we bringing to the table? Are there times where you have an opportunity for your mentor and you're like, hey, I saw that there's, maybe this opportunity to do something, and I thought it would be great for you in your business, or something like that. But I think, let's not tag it too hard, and let's, keep it fluid.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the beginning, I mean, the first time that I had a mentor, I fell into the trap of booking an appointment once a month to catch up. And I was like, that's never gonna work, So, so that's never gonna work because it's always something gonna come up, and you're always gonna cancel that appointment in the end. So, really, to me, it really became successful and valuable when I could just, like you said, just reach out and say, I have this problem, like I have this case study. How would you approach it? And it not always also reach out to your mentor when you're looking for a job or looking for a time to move to the next level, but really that time where you have a situation at work, you really don't know who to ask, and then you just have this, you bounce ideas by them. It also helped them. Like the few times people have bounced ideas by me, I was like, okay, this is an interesting perspective that I had not, encountered before, and that was valuable to me. Yeah. We have a question. What do you say to someone who says, "Me too, I'm looking for a mentor"? What do you say to someone who says, "Me too, I'm looking for a mentor"? Okay, interesting. Who wants to try?
I can attempt that to start with. Maybe I use my own case as an example. So at the time when I was looking for a mentor, I wanted someone who could show me that the journey I felt was right for me is feasible and will be successful, and I didn't necessarily need to make some compromises. So, okay, I'll be a bit more specific. I was looking for a mentor who could show me through their own life story that they could have a career in a STEM subject, and they could have a family and balance both without either of them suffering, if you get what I mean. So I went to a lot of different institutions, and I networked with a lot of female scientists in my field until I found a couple of them who had in what I would call a balanced lifestyle, where they had a very successful scientific career. They were top leaders in their institutions, and they had families, and I felt like they had relationships even with their family members. And immediately I knew these were the people I wanted to approach to ask if they would be willing to mentor me. And there's no two ways about it. Just ask. There's no there's no formal way. You just reach out, whether it's by email or if you see them. In my case, I was privileged to be in the same conference as one of them. And I just asked her if she would be willing to be a mentor. And she said yes. And up to date, this is 17 years down the line, we still keep in touch very informally. So again, going to Estelle's point, don't formalize it. Otherwise it puts officiality to it, and it makes it easy to cancel when something else comes up. So it's literally send a WhatsApp message, hey, have you got 5 minutes, I want to talk. And it doesn't always have to be about work related or career related things. It can be anything, because that's why you chose them in the first place. You want to benefit from a 360 view of how they go about their own life, so that it doesn't seem as if it's always one-sided. It's always about careers. You want to also get experience or learn from their own experiences in how they took some decisions outside of their career paths. And that's what makes it evolve naturally from a mentorship or mentor-mentee relationship into a friendship, irrespective of the age. And I would always say to anyone, if you're looking for a mentor, what do you want to gain from that mentor? If it's purely, career-wise, or it's a blend of both career and lifestyle, then just look for somebody who has walked that path before you and is way ahead and is succeeded in that path, and just ask. And I'm sure you will get a positive outcome if you just go direct and just ask.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Jumi, because it's more one of the things that I think I've learned just kind of being in the corporate space is you have to ask. You gotta, if there's something that you need, if there's something that you want, if there's support you're looking for, ask. So if it is a mentor that you're looking for and want to establish that relationship with someone within or outside of the organization, it's probably not going to work if you just kind of sit in a corner and try to like give the eye. Yeah, there's no such thing. So just go in there, and talk about your journey, and talk about what it is that you want from this individual, or what would be beneficial. Put it out there. I think that's a really great point. So one of the things, just kind of like highlighting as we shift gears a little bit, is that visibility within the organization. And one of the things that comes to mind for me is I remember having a conversation with someone and saying, look for opportunities to network within the organization. It can't be emphasized enough. Just get in there. You need to be visible. And his response was, I'm not really into eye service. So it's like, I said, okay, well, I can understand how, you might think, visibility, get busy, when people can see, but it's more than that, right? It's not doing the work when they're not looking, but it's just being consistent, being intentional, and getting your work done. But then really actually reaching out to people and talking to people. Maybe there's, as Jumi said, it's volunteering. You can volunteer within the organization as well. There might be an ongoing project in an area that you have interest. You can tap into that. You can reach out to a head of department and say, hey, I saw, that maybe during a meeting or something that you guys are working on this project. This is of interest to me. Is there anything is there any way that I can, get involved? But yeah, I think it's really just being intentional about that visibility within the organization.